Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Monday's Wealth Creation Show. And today we're going to talk about achieving peak performance and getting really successful results and some of the strategies that go behind that and things as well. Jim, we run your photo when you scaled Tukal, when you got to the top. And I thought that was quite relevant because it's like something where you need to be in peak performance. Although admittedly, I didn't think you were quite there, but you made it. And that was a really successful result and something, an achievement. And
Yeah,
it takes a lot to get to a point like that. I mean, this could relate to any aspect of your life, your business, your personal life, your goals. It could be scaling a mountain, it could be taking your business to the next level. There's a
yeah.
lot of things, but being
Okay.
in that peak
So
performance and getting those successful results, there's strategies not behind that, and that's what we're going to delve into
yeah,
today.
and the most important one for climbing a mountain or anything like that is start with the end in mind and work back from there and work out what you need to do
Yeah,
before you get there. That's the most important thing. A- And and it's like anything. Well, it's like what I do all the time now. I focus on what I want to do, and then I find out where I want to do and when I want to do that by, and then I
right.
kind of work out in small bite-sized chunks what I need to do to get there. So I clearly think that's probably what you're going to talk about and how you do
Yeah,
that in a bit more detail overall. And anybody tuning in, yeah, it's got to be the most important thing. I mean, even the reality is like, yeah, there you go. Who'd want to drink that?
it looks so
It's like
unappetizing, but obviously
brown
a lot of
sludge.
good in it. Yeah,
Tell you what, it's probably the best meal that anyone will ever get. And it's probably the least expensive meal you'll ever drink. And it's probably the best thing for you. Maybe that's the sort of thing we should be doing for people who can't afford food. It's like this sort
you
of
know,
thing.
I bet when you drink that, because there's so much goodness and nutrients and everything in it, it obviously it's quite substantial and suppresses your hunger.
Oh, it's
Whereas
gorgeous.
people will eat these processed foods and things, and you're hungry very shortly after. That's because there's no
Mm,
nutritional value in them.
mm.
That's why you feel hungry
I love
afterwards.
it. I absolutely love it. It's apple, it's pineapple, it's all these different things
Yeah,
it rolled into one, and it's spinach, it's kale, it's ginger, it's lemon, so you
thank
get
you very
that
much.
zest as well. It's spirulina, it's wheatgrass, it's hemp, it's avocado. You name it,
There's
it's
a
going to
lot
be
in
in it.
there. There's a lot in
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And it will stand you in good stead all the time. Let me just show you what I have for my breakfast. Here's what I have. See if I can get it up for you, and let you see what my breakfast consists of. If I could find it here. Here we go. So this is my breakfast, and most people go, "What the hell is that? Rabbit food?"
Let us
That's my
see that.
breakfast.
Like, really?
Yep,
And
that is it.
what's in the jug?
That's soya milk.
Right. Okay. Oh, so you put this in like
So
a
that's
cereal.
soya milk. That's 4 tablespoons of oats. Okay, that's chia, a
Hmm.
tablespoon of chia, a tablespoon of flax, and a tablespoon of pumpkin seed, and
Right.
then uh, peanuts and
Mhm.
raisins, and that is a secret thing. I'm trying out for someone now. They're saying, "Go and take this. This will help you, and we'll test you at the end of the 9 months or whatever." So I'm doing that for them just as a favour. But that's what I have. The amount of protein, the amount of fiber, the amount of vitamins and nutrients in that is absolutely huge. Combined
Yeah.
with the organic soy milk,
Organic. I was just going to say organic.
organic soy milk for soy milk's sake. I personally think you've got Roundup, which is all these carcinogenic weed killers and everything in there.
Yeah.
That's all veg, by the way. The spray, they're about to spray it with something, so you're bound to get some of that. So that's why I go for organic every single
Mhm.
time. But that I have every single morning religiously, every single morning, regardless. And that I could live on that for the rest of the day, to be honest. But as I said, this is what comes next.
Yeah. I know, and people tuning in
That's
might
my
think,
lunch.
"Oh,
That's my breakfast. This is my lunch.
and people tuning in might think, what the hell are you talking about breakfast and lunch and everything for? But these types of things is all related to your health and how, I mean, your body, if your body's not in good shape, how are you ever going to be in peak performance to be able to get successful results in anything
Yeah.
that you do? Your health's a really big part of that. And we talk about quite a lot throughout the whole series of the Wealth Creation Show. We're on episode 158 here, and it's something that we touch on quite a lot. And people might think, right, okay, we're talking about scaling mountains and pushing your business to the next level and things, and people might be a bit, they might get a wee bit of fear with that. They might think I'll never be able to achieve something like that. But I think getting in peak.
Look what happens next to this treadmill. So running 5K.
Mm-hmm.
So this is actually something I did, but I've actually got a Garmin Forerunner 965, and what that does, that told me I need to keep my heart rate at 147 beats per minute. So I'm not overexerting myself, and I'm not putting too much pressure on my heart, because it actually monitors your whole performance. So again, that's combined. That's the sort of thing I do. So I train 6 times a week now. So 6 times a week.
Yep.
I have that for my breakfast, I have that for my lunch, and it's the same every single time. And yeah, Jake, you could say whatever you want about who cares. It's like, I don't care either. I'm just telling you what works for me.
Yeah.
You don't need to listen.
Yeah, if anybody's watching,
but
it isn't really relevant.
Maybe leaves clues.
Yeah,
success maybe leaves
clues.
Relevant
to you, then don't watch.
Aye, what are you watching for then?
Yeah,
don't waste your life watching or listening to this if it's not relevant. If you don't want to succeed at anything, or don't want to be healthier, if you don't want to improve your circumstances, if you've got everything you ever wanted, don't watch any more of this. Stop where you are, go and do something else, and that's it. It's like why don't you, isn't it? What's the thing where it says stop where you are and don't do anything else? Why? I mean, you remember why don't you?
It's. I mean, I was going to say. I mean, it's coming through YouTube, so it could be anywhere in the world. But I mean, it's surprising to think, what are people doing on a Monday afternoon if they've got time to sit and just write stuff on Facebook or comment rather than watch it and learn? What else are you doing on a Monday afternoon at this time if you're in this part of the world, I suppose?
Hey, if you've not got any goals for 2025, why not be an internet troll?
Yeah, very true, very true. But yeah, no, I was going to say, obviously, we're talking about things like quite big goals, like I say, scaling mountains and pushing businesses to the next level and things. And people might get a bit, overwhelmed with that. They might think, God, I'll never achieve something like that. But it's not about these big, massive goals. It's not a superpower that's maybe just a lucky few people have. It's more about having that mix of, smart strategies and having the right mindset and, practical approaches to things and that as well. Would you agree, Jim? I mean, it's not just all about big, hairy, audacious goals as we talk about. It's about just having those small steps that get you to the next stage.
Yes, it's just simple steps and marginal gains. And I was actually listening to Jordan Peterson this morning on Diary of a CEO talking to Steve Bartlett, and he was talking about it. He says, look, most people actually get so overwhelmed by the goals they're trying to create that they actually don't do anything because there's too much for them to do in there. He says, but it doesn't matter if you're in a crisis right now, if you're in a crisis where you are right now, again, you don't look at it, the whole thing. You just take small things that make a difference, that's all. And you just learn to be successful in these small things overall. And it is as simple as, I'm going to hoover the house for today. That's it. Honestly,
really
for a lot of people, just that in itself is an achievement, just to do that. And that's people that are right at the bottom. It's like they can't cope with life anymore. They can't cope with their situation anymore. And that's the only thing that's going to get them. So just do that.
Create
just
a routine,
make yourself a meal.
Simple routine.
Just learn to just clean up after yourself, and like maybe tell that to my own kids. And they're adults. But that's the sort of things you've got to. That's the only way you'll ever come back from where you are right now. It's no easy. I've been there for the depths of despair at some point in time in the past, where I never really saw any way out, other than one other way, which I'm not going to talk about, but I think everybody knows what that is. And it was just too overwhelming, overwhelming in my own situation, which was my own self-doing. That's really what happened. So if I could do it, I think everybody else can do it. But as I said, and I'll share this, for 2025, if you're on here and you're not meant to be here, no life, well, why not become an internet troll?
I love that as Willy Wonka.
What is the point of?
I know.
I don't understand people that go into other people's. especially because I'm a vegan.
Mm-hmm.
And see the amount of vegan posts that go on, but see the amount of people that are anti-vegan. It's like, just go and do so. Create your own stage.
Yeah,
Have
go and do
your
your
own
own
stage. Do your
country.
own thing. Peddle your own, whatever it is you want to peddle, your own story about how life should be for you, and see how many people follow you. You don't need to go on and have a great enjoyment out of vilifying other people just because they're vegan. Just leave them alone. That's the worst thing you could do, you see, is actually interact with people, possibly some people that are vegan, to be honest.
Yeah.
You just make it worse because you just give them more power to what they want to do. Just leave them alone. With anything, whatever you do, no matter what. If somebody wants to be independent, if they want to be part of a union like the Britain and Ireland and Scotland
Yeah.
and all the rest of it, if somebody wants to be in Europe and somebody wants to be out of Europe, if somebody wants to be a Trump supporter and somebody wants to be a Biden supporter at that time, who cares?
Their choice.
Like,
yeah.
what's the point of arguing with them? You're arguing with somebody that you'll never change their opinion. Don't waste your time. Think about all the time that you've spent throughout your life arguing with people on things that are totally useless. You'll never change their mind. And you think to yourself, when you get to your deathbed, think about this. You'll think about all the time that you've spent needlessly on all the stuff like that and trolling people and stuff like that, and think to yourself, I actually could have done something else more productive in my life instead of doing that. If that compounds up to a huge amount of time, I'd rather spend with other people that I get on with and I enjoy their company than actually spend it, having a go at them for other things.
And people do spend a lot of time and a vast amount of, their energy into doing this. I mean, where we are and the world, obviously in Scotland and Fife, and we've got local community pages and things which are really useful and really good, and I'm part of quite a lot of them. But you see the same people on all the posts always commenting. I thought, God, that must take up a lot of your life.
Got nothing else to do. It's
like
the Willy Wonka thing.
Yeah.
It's like no life, become an internet troll.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And I could understand why people are like that. Let me explain why somebody is like that. Because they see success in other people at the want for themselves, but they're so upset that they can't achieve that for themselves, they have to bring the other person down to their level to feel better about themselves. That's why they do it. That's why when somebody goes on and says, look after cows and stop slaughtering them and all the rest of it, somebody goes, or look after pigs, they're intelligent animals, they're beautiful, they're sentient beings. It's like, and then they go on and then somebody comes on and goes, oh, I'm having a lovely bacon roll. And it's like, get a life.
Yeah.
It's like, you just make yourself look an absolute tube.
I know.
But and that's what I mean. If you want to achieve any successful peak performance and you want to have successful results in your life, that's not what you should be doing.
You need to make better use of your time, and that's definitely not it. But talking about performance and obviously and being successful and getting successful results and things, I kind of researched different strategies. I've put 7 here that kind of lead our conversation.
Are we on TikTok?
We're not. No, we're not.
You should have put it on TikTok. We would have got a laugh at these people.
We would have got a lot of trolls, yeah. No, we're not.
You should have put it on TikTok. In fact, I'm going to put it on TikTok now, and we'll have a good laugh.
Well, I'll have a wee chat. I'll lead us into these strategies that we're going to have a chat about while you do that. So 7 key strategies to kind of help people achieve peak performance and get these successful results and things. And you should look at these as like a kind of toolkit. And the first one's goals, Jim, and you've already touched on that. But a toolkit to help you, achieve a better performance and get your results and embrace that whole journey and kind of your growth throughout that, because you will notice if you stick to these kind of things how you change over the years. And from a year to even 5 years, when you look back, you think you don't realize you're picking these things up and learning as you go, and you definitely do. And that's for speaking from my short experience.
I'm a classic example of that.
Yeah,
who thought I'd have another 60 properties in 3 years? 3 years later.
I never thought we would do that, but you did. So
there you go. It can be done. Another 60 properties on my portfolio in 3 years. So that tells you everything about what can be done and what can't be done.
Yeah, I mean, I knew there was growth there, but I didn't think it would go to to that level, and it's been great. It's been brilliant. But
I always knew it would.
but it takes the right people, it takes the right attitude, it takes, do you know what, it takes the right systems and processes and things like that. But initially setting clear goals to really achieve that outstanding performance. And do you know what? You need to treat your goals as that guiding direction and that thing that gives you purpose. And so they need to really be clear and align with what you're actually trying to achieve and the actions that you need to do to actually achieve that. And make sure that you're not just busy. Do you know we talk about being busy for the sake of it, but actually effective in achieving your goals. There's a difference there, and people fall foul of that, and we see it quite a lot with new investors and people that just kind of being busy for being busy, but they're not actually getting results and they're not actually being effective in what they're trying to achieve. And it's easy to fall into that pit of just being busy for busy sake as such.
Yep, absolutely.
So what about SMART goals then? This is something that you and I talk about one-to-ones with the business and things, and it's relevant to everything, but things need to be quite specific and measurable and, do you know, achievable. Well, I say achievable goals, but then you are quite a big fan of setting big goals that maybe are unattainable, but you're going to get a really good result trying to achieve them. But yeah, achievable and relevant.
If you're not sure about how you're going to achieve your goals and you think you could, I'm not really sure how to put it. Remember we talked about this other week about what's holding you back.
Yeah.
And you're not really sure what's holding you back. Set yourself a massive goal, right? So set yourself a massive goal if you're not sure what's holding you back.
Yep.
A goal that you never think you could ever in your mindset could ever achieve. Set that goal in your mind and listen to all the excuses you're about to tell yourself about how you're never going to achieve it. And that's what's holding you back. That's how to find out what's holding you back. Listen to all your excuses that you tell yourself because this huge goal that you've set yourself.
Yeah.
And then that's what will tell you what's holding you back if you don't know what's holding you back. That's an easy way to do it, I would say.
Yeah, that was a good point in that show, because it's like it really then identifies to people like, oh, I can't do that because this and because this, and it's like, well, these are the things that are holding you back. So they're the things you need to.
It's a good point in this show.
Well, yeah, but in any show, in any show, obviously. But
yeah, nobody else has heard this before.
Yeah. But that's definitely a good point to make, and have these things so they're, you know, you can measure what you measure, like they're measurable as you go along, what you're actually doing, and hold yourself accountable to your actions and how relation they are to your goals.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's just obviously we, like I say, we do that within the business and one-to-one, and you were quite with me, you were saying like you need to quantify things and for you to be able to achieve them. It's all very well having goals and saying, oh, I want to do this and I want to achieve this and I want to get here. How are you actually going to do that?
Unless you quantify it, you'll never achieve it.
Yeah.
You've got nothing to measure it against. Get a tap and get a container, for example, with no measurements on it, and pour me 250 mils of liquid into it. How do you know what 250 mils is if you've got nothing to measure it against?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what your goal should be like as well. How do you know you're actually achieving your goals if you've not got anything to measure if you're achieving your goals? I know it sounds completely bonkers, but a lot of people actually think like that. They don't realize they're thinking like that, because when they set the goals in the first place, they just say, I want to be wealthy, or I want to have £1 million. I want to be a millionaire. Okay, so what does a millionaire look like to you then? What is a millionaire in your mind? Is it £1 million in the bank? Is it £1 million in equity? Is it £1 million in a business? Is it £1 million profit a year? Is it, £1 million in crypto? What is £1 million to you in being a millionaire? What is that? Is it your health being a millionaire as well? Or is it just wealth? Is it just pure money being a millionaire? Quantify it right down to the nth degree, right down to the detail, right down to the nitty gritty. Like, for example, I'm going to have X amount in the bank. I'm going to have X amount of number of properties. I'm going to have X amount in gold. I'm going to have that amount in there. So get some measure on it. If you don't measure anything, again, I come back to saying you've got no way of being able to realize that you're actually going to get that goal. If I ask you to start a count to 10, but I don't allow you to count the first 9 numbers, how do you know you're at 10?
Yeah.
So you have to quantify it, don't you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'll say that again. If I ask you to count to 10, but I don't allow you to count the first 9 numbers, how on earth do you know you're at 10?
Yeah, because
You
you need to go
need
through
every
that.
other number in that run up to get to 10. So, and that just tells me straight away, it's the same for your goals. You have to some sort of, you need the 1 to 9 to get to the 10th, which is your final goal. You need the 9 steps first to come in order to get the 10th, or you'll never ever get to the 10th at all if you've not got the first 9. And everybody just thinks this is classic. This is classic New Year's resolutions, isn't it? I want number 10. It's like, but what about the other 9 you've got to do before you get to 10? Oh, well, do I need to do that?
Yeah,
Do I need
that's
to
a
go,
really good
do I need to
example.
go running every morning? Do I
Yeah,
need to go to the gym every other day? Do I need to go swimming? Do I need to go out my bike? Do I need, all these different things? Do I need to do it? Absolutely. Because you'll never get your overall goal or your New Year's resolution if you don't do it.
yeah, and it's a really good example about breaking things down. Because, like, say your New Year's resolution was, I want to be able to run a 10K. Well, you're not just going to walk out the door and run 10K. You're going to have to run every morning or every evening or whenever you do that, little bits at a time, and break it down and do that into manageable tasks and steps until you're able to run 10K. You can't just walk out the door and do it.
You have to work
And
up
that
towards it.
and breaking it down is a big part of that, and having these goals into smaller, measurable tasks, and then build it up for there. And that it's the same with anything. So yeah, breaking it down as well. But you said, and you already touched on this as well, Jim. And I was just going to round up with goals about imagining the finish line, or your end goal. Keep that in mind, and what that actually looks like. And that mental picture will give you some motivation, even when it gets quite hard, and you're thinking like, oh, can I do this? You keep the end result in mind. Does that always keep you going? I mean, climbing Tubcal is a big thing for you. I mean, that was
What was Tubcal? I hung myself by my tongue. I basically
yeah.
did it for charity,
I know
and
it
I
was
thought I've
difficult,
got
but
to
you've
do it
done it.
now. I've no
Hmm.
other choice. So I hung myself by my tongue, but I wanted to do that in order to prove to myself I need to get back to training. I wanted
Yeah.
to see. Most people will go out for a run and
I'll
just
train
test
and then I'll
themselves.
climb the mountain.
It's
But
like, no, I'll go and climb Mount Tubcal, the biggest, the biggest peak, the biggest mountain, and the
North America,
Arabic
North
nations.
Africa.
Biggest mountain in North Africa, but also in the Arabic regions. I'll go and climb that to see how fit I am. Literally, that's what I did it for. And so, and it's the same way, I was meant to go to Mount Blanc, and it was all paid for, but unfortunately, the other person pulled out, and I thought, I'm not going to moan. It's like, I
No.
didn't need to prove anything to myself. And we'll do it eventually, and that's it. But it's like that sort of thing. I tend to say, let's go big and see how I get on with that first, and then I'll realize what work I need to do it. That tends to be how I do. Go large or go home.
Yeah.
And then you'll know exactly how you are. So I'll push myself to the limit first and see what my limits are, and then I'll start working on getting past my limits after that. So I'll get my limits, I'll come back from my limits, I'll then start to train up towards my limits again. But by the time you train up towards your limits and you take the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you get to the 10th easily, and then you realize you can get way beyond your limits after that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it is a kind of different way of doing it.
And visualization is a really good one for me. I suppose it's in my mind all the time about, probably just doing bike rides. Richard Branson was a big thing for me, and this will be the 3rd year I'm going to spend time with Richard and Joan on Necker Island.
Yeah.
So that for me, it's great. So I kind of like these sort of things, and that's what motivates me to get round. Other people are far, well, clearly way more successful than me, but also the people that are there as well at the same time. We're all the same people, and I want to learn a bit more from Brian, from Kevin. They're fund managers,
Yeah.
And from Danny as well. Danny reminds me he's a Miami lawyer, and I have a sneaking suspicion he's like, you know, if you've ever watched any of these legal programs where people in court, I've got a funny feeling Danny's like that. He's like a high
Mhm.
flyer in the legal profession.
Right.
So again, another person I'd love to learn from as well. So for me, this is more or less a training opportunity for me with people way more successful than me in their own fields, in their own right. And the things that I can learn off them are really important as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, setting goals, have smart goals, break them down, and like you say, visualization, and the end result or the finish line always in mind, and that will keep you going as well. But feedback, Jim. Let's talk about feedback and getting that regular feedback and having some recognition about what you're doing. Do you think that's important, or do you think it's like part of the kind of secret for your achieving your peak performance, to make sure that you've got that feedback from the right people, I might add, as well, not just anybody?
Constant feedback for myself, I think.
Hmm.
I would be. I'm a big fan of. I think I'm more self-critical to myself. I don't really need feedback from other people because I've learned so much about myself. I understand myself a lot more.
Right.
But that's as a result of becoming a student of life and learning from other people far more successful. And learning from, I mean, I saw a PT instructor, a physical trainer, a physical
Hmm.
education instructor as well. An old school teacher walking down the high street with a walking stick, basically could hardly walk. He's at a good age. But then I thought, when he was walking past, I was thinking, what do I need to learn from him? That because if he's a physical education instructor and he's walking like that, it's like, did he not get the memo or something? And the
Yeah.
fact that, what did he not realize that in his education as a physical education instructor, that he's actually walking about with a walking stick just now? What
He's
was,
not looked
what
after
did,
his legs. Yeah.
I kind of think to myself, what did he fail to do? What did he fail to do in the early days in order to avoid him being like this now?
Hmm.
That's the sort of thing that goes on in my mind about, seeing other people and seeing where they are and seeing possibly they're not as good as where they should have been, and maybe looking at their failures as well. I can learn a hell of a lot more from their failures than I'm doing it myself. I don't
Hmm.
need to reinvent a wheel. I just need to look at other people and say, right, okay, what was their failures? That's the things that I shouldn't be doing in the fields that I want to specialize in. Also, you can learn from people's successes as well. And a lot of people talk about learning from people's successes, but nobody really talks about learning from people's failures and how
Failures.
important it is, rather than actually doing it yourself.
It's funny that you say, obviously it was a physical, obviously a personal trainer, physical education and things. But I like, that's funny how he's now then got, because we spoke a few weeks back about the importance of looking after your legs, especially as you get older, because they're the things that will determine whether you're still going to be mobile and have a profound effect on your life. And he's obviously
Mm.
never been taught that or learnt that, and in his education as a physical educator or whatever, which is strange, because your legs are really important, of course.
He's clearly. I think your muscles and your legs' ability to walk and everything like that is key and fundamental
Mhm.
to when you get into your older age.
Yeah.
I definitely think that as soon as you stop walking or lose the ability, you lose everything else as a result. I think it's so important to make sure your leg muscles and your all your joints and your core and everything's in good working order to facilitate a longer life as a result.
Yeah.
So this regular feedback is so important, and learning from other people, it's this just the slight adjustments you get from it.
Hmm.
Just adjust it every time. So like, if you know, here's a really great one. Everybody's taken the magnifying glass and the paper and they've put it on the sun and they've lit the paper with the sun and
Yeah.
the magnifying glass. If you haven't, well, where have you been? Have you been on
Yeah.
a different planet or something? Because like this is great. This is like, and a lot of people used to torture insects and that. That's no right, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, but you can do it with paper. And then what happens as well, that's the perfect example, I say, of what you should be like in your own life in terms of feedback, feedback, adjust, because it's like the sun moves. So if you hold it in the same place all the time and the sun moves, it will not catch fire anymore on the paper.
Hmm.
So then you have to pivot and just move with the sun. And that's kind of a bit like life. You have to pivot and just move and make sure you adapt to the current situation you're in and to your climate in order to make sure you're going to move on and still be continue to be successful at what you do. And that's the most important thing. But the other one as well is the one that I've failed to do over the years is celebrate the wins.
Yeah, celebrate your
Especially
wins.
when you get these wee milestones. And I don't mean, oh, I've got I got a sale this month, so I'm going to go out and buy a new car. It's like, no, like
or book a
proportionally.
5-star holiday and expensive.
Proportionally, no matter how small, celebrate it. Treat yourself to something like your favourite coffee, and share your success with other members of your team. Remember that if you're in the right group of people, they want to hear about your successes. If they're bored with your successes and they don't want to hear about them, you're in the wrong group.
Mm-hmm.
That is not the people that will lift you up. That is not the people that will champion you and help you to your next goals. You need to dump these people. Just like a rocket taking off the ground, when a rocket takes off, it's got tanks that get them to a certain level. And after a period of time, these tanks fall off and fall back to Earth. That's kind of like some of the people that will get you so far, but not any further.
On without them,
Yeah, because they don't have the same vision as you. They maybe just want to get to that level, and that's them done.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the and that then goes on to what you were saying about this, the third one, which is create that culture of ongoing learning and growth.
Yes,
definitely. I do this every single morning. I read a book every single morning. I'm about to finish Wealth Can't Wait with David and Paul, who were two massive Keller Williams franchisors, and they made an absolute fortune. But they pivoted into property as well, so they've got like 600 and 700 units each in terms of property. So I'm just finishing that book, but I'm also Jordan Peterson, Diary of a CEO. I'm listening to that about how important that people think and how to change the way you think and how to achieve and be the best person you can be as a result. So there's no doubt about it. I continue to learn every single day. So that's a religion for me. That's literally a religion. Reading a book every day, listening to the podcast every day, eating the same breakfast every day, drinking the same food every day, drinking the same for my lunch, to give me all the nutrients and vitamins to make sure this body, I'm 58, this has to last another 62 years, more than what I've just lived. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I'm in the state I'm in now after 58 years. How the hell am I going to get to 120? That's my mindset. How am I going to get to 120? How am I going to get to this to last to 120 years old? And that is my ultimate goal. So when I think about what I eat and what I take, I don't deny myself. I'll have the odd. I mean, at the weekend we went to McDonald's. It's like I wasn't enthused, to be honest, but I had a plant-based burger, Beyond Meat, and it was great. Well, great. It was okay. To be honest, it was okay because I'm not used to that type of food.
Yeah.
So to me, it actually tastes quite horrible.
Because although it's plant-based things, it's still ultra-processed.
Well, no, it just tastes horrible to me. It's just like anything. You get used to what you're doing. I mean, when I drank this in the first instance, it was like, this is bulk. But I continue to do it. Now I love it.
Your body adapts to it,
I eat broccoli raw. I eat other, I could eat Brussels sprouts raw. I could eat onions raw. I could eat lots of things raw. It makes no difference to me because I'm so used to that because this is all cold pressed.
Yeah.
So I'm so used to these tastes now at my whole system, and my system has actually learned to realize that this is a huge amount of nutrient that's coming in, and it's a big blast to my system. So remember, be continuous in your learning and how you do things, and become curious about everything.
Asking questions is such an important thing.
I used to get told off for asking questions all the time. You know that?
You do ask a lot, but it's that curiosity and that inquisitiveness that helps you learn and understand the whole thing.
When I was younger, I used to get told off quite a lot for asking so many questions, and it was just total curiosity, and I have never changed that way. I've always asked questions every single time. Questions about everything. I even get to the point where I think, who was in that film again? And I look on Google and I went, oh, it's them. And then I start to look and think, what other films were they in? And I become completely obsessed with details and facts and information about what it is. Yeah, that's it, really. Hello to the people on TikTok. We've not been on TikTok for a while, by the way. Wealth Creation Show.
We're running live on Instagram.
Yeah, for the people on TikTok, we're talking about how to achieve peak performance and successful results overall. So dabble. You've got dabble in diversity.
Well, I,
Don't
mean, I
limit
think
yourself
diversity,
to.
when we think about that, and do you know, I think it's be diverse in who you learn from. And you've said in the past, Jim, you've shown interest and attended or spoke to people, and they're like, "What are you doing here? What do you want to? What could do you know? What are you going to learn from
I
me?"
What on
But I
earth
think
are
you
you
should
doing
be
at this
open,
workshop? Because
yeah.
you know more than me.
But you should be open to see the fact that you could learn something from anybody that might be relevant. You never know. Just make
I
sure it is.
remember in the early days, I turned up to one thing called Russ Whitney in Edinburgh. It was a seminar for property investment, and it was
Uh-huh.
Russ Whitney from America. The system doesn't exist anymore; it went bust. But the one thing I learned from it was sticking a lineage advert in the paper: houses and flats for cash. Does that sound familiar to everybody
Yeah.
on social media right now? That was 30 years ago. That's what I was doing. And people were phoning up saying, "Yeah, I've got this and I've got that and I've got this." And I used to get loads and loads of leads of people looking to sell, and that's how I picked up a lot of my properties in the beginning. As a result, so there's no doubt about it that system works, and so I picked up a lot and made an absolute fortune, all because I went to that one seminar, and that's all I heard, just that bit. I never did any further advanced courses or anything like that. But that was somebody that took me to it. It says, "You want to go to this?" Because I quite fancy. And I went, "Aye, okay, then we'll go." And turning up is the most important thing. So here's the reason why I'm going to be a speaker at the Property Investment Network on
Mm-hmm.
March, and I'm also going to be a speaker at the Property Investment Network in Glasgow,
In
I
Glasgow,
think
yeah.
in June or something like that. So March and June, I'm going to be Edinburgh. I'm going to be talking about what you need to do. Well, I'm not going to. No, I'll no steal the thunder of the Edinburgh pin. I'll need to keep quiet about that. How to make
Right.
£20,000 an hour.
Yeah, there you go.
Aye, that's one of the things I'll be talking about. How do you make £20,000 an hour buying one property? I'll say that again. How do you make £20,000 an hour buying one property? 20 grand an hour buying one property. That's what you can make if you do it right. If you do it right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to talk about at the PIN meetings, as well as other things as well. How are you going to last long enough? That's the most important thing. Nobody
Mhm.
talks about this. How are you going to last long enough to enjoy that £20,000 an hour that you're making?
That kind of
That's
falls
another
into
thing.
what we've just been speaking about. Yeah.
Aye,
Your health.
because
Yeah.
everybody assumes that they're going to be in perfect health by the time they get their money. By the time they've built all this wealth, I'm going to start now, and I'm going to when I'm 60. It's like when you're 60, you'll be goosed if you've not
Yeah.
done anything towards it. If you drink, if you smoke, if you eat ultra processed foods, you'll be knackered by the time you get to 60. You will not be able to enjoy any of your wealth at all. You will
Yes.
literally not be able to travel anywhere in the country or even abroad. You won't. Some people won't be able to go on a plane because their heart condition or whatever it is, or they've got to be within reach of the NHS in Britain all the time, so they can't go abroad. They can't enjoy their wealth. They're basically fucked.
But there's a few people I know, and they've retired, went abroad, and they've had to come back to use the NHS. They've had to come
Mhm.
back and live here because they need the NHS.
So this is all about acquiring new skills and share them with your team.
Yeah.
Measurement and
Share
performance,
them.
the next one.
Yeah. Yeah, measuring performance, and it's like anything. If you're driving your car and you've not got the speedometer or whatever, how do you know how fast you're going? Do you know you wouldn't just be cruising around in your car or whatever. And similarly, measuring your performance keeps you on track. It highlights your strengths and it also uncovers areas where you need to improve. And I think you really need to be open to that. And anything that you do, nobody's going to be perfect at everything first go round. There's always something that could be improved. There's always room for improvement, and you need to be open to that. And anybody that goes in
Yeah.
with the mindset that they're going to do something to perfection and don't need to work on anything or make improvements, it could be it's a bit delusional, to be honest. But setting benchmarks, we set benchmarks.
I'm just showing the people on TikTok actually what we're on. This is a
All right, okay.
broadcast system for the folk on TikTok we're actually watching. I'll flip the camera back round and put it where it is again, just so you know who I'm speaking to. Anyway, let's
Yeah.
let's go on as we mean to go on.
Yeah, so we were talking about measuring performance and then benchmarks, setting benchmarks. And as I say, Jim, within our business, we have benchmarks that we work on daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, and anything like that you do,
that's
whether it's a
all it
personal
ever is.
achievement or a business achievement, you need to benchmark yourself.
If you don't measure anything, you won't know if you've achieved anything.
Mm-hmm.
There's a really profound statement. If you measure nothing, you'll not be able to know if you've achieved anything at all. You need to measure something. It has to go on. How do you know you've got to your goal with £10,000 in the bank if you actually don't measure it?
Yeah.
If you don't look at your bank account ever, how are you going to know? That's the simplistic form of looking at it. So that's exactly what you said and what I said in the beginning. If I gave you a jar without any measurements on it and asked you to pour out 250 mils, how would you know it's 250 mils? Because you've got no measurement on it. So that's the most important thing. So make sure you set that, and then obviously periodic assessments. You said it. Weekly, we have weekly reports, we have monthly reports, we have yearly budgets. It was set as well.
I'm doing year-end just now.
Yeah, so you're working on them now, and in the run-up to setting our budgets, and then we'll set them all for the next tax year, which is from April onwards. That's how we operate. So that's the most important things, and then gathering feedback from all the people round about, from your peers, your managers, your clients. Classic example: measure your performance from our clients. The ESTAs. The ESTAs is the UK Estate Agent Awards, which is voted for independently by your customers. You send them the link, and they're the only people that can vote. And you can't do it yourself because all the IP addresses are checked.
Yeah.
So all the IP addresses are checked. If there's any duplicate IP addresses, in other words, you're trying to fill out yourself on behalf of your customer, they are deleted.
Yeah, they get deleted out, yeah.
So it has to be you're independently verified, and that's a brilliant measurement of performance. And your customers, I mean, what more could you ask for than your customers actually saying you're 100% brilliant at what you do? Excellent is actually the thing. You've got outstanding, and then you've got excellent, or you've got excellent and outstanding. There's world class is basically what you are, and we're 99.odd%, 99.9% or so. No,
we've been getting some really good feedback, and 99% it is 5 stars, but sometimes we get half a star under, and it's good. That's where you think, right, well, why is that? And that's where then you find.
And then the next one is the EA Masters. The EA Masters is an independent board based on everybody that's on Rightmove, and they benchmark you on their statistics and KPIs.
Yeah.
You don't know about it. They actually mystery shop you, phone you, and actually make sure how you're doing things correctly. And then they give you a rating based on their awards. And then we've got that twice. Yeah, we've got the top pinnacle, and we're in something like the top 3% or even 1% agents in the country. In terms of estate agency and letting agents, only about 1% ever get this double award, the double gold. So that then shows us we're doing it right for our customers, but we're also doing it right for our buyers. So these are the sort of things. But you will never change unless you overcome your resistance to change. Now, there's one thing consistent in this world: it's change.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a complete contrary to each other. Consistent change, but there's one thing consistent: it is change.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing. If there's one thing consistent, it's definitely change in this world. And I don't know, it could feel like a roller coaster, can't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, do you know what, people that have that resistance to change or have that fear of change, that is one hurdle that you're going to have to overcome, or you're never going to be successful. You're never going to achieve your goals, because that's going to hold you back. Been there, obviously, and had those kind of resistance to changes, because a lot of people change it can be quite daunting, and it can be quite overwhelming, and as you say, it could be like a roller coaster. But you need to not just embrace it. You need to thrive on it. I
literally hate change, or I used to hate change.
Yeah.
But I love change, because not change for change's sake, because change means that you're adapting to the new environment, which will bring more abundance of wealth. Every single time. That's what happens. If you're stagnating at this point in time, you're going back. If you don't change, you'll eventually just go back if you're not doing anything different to what you're doing for. And if you expect to have better things ahead, then you have to adapt and change to that environment, because what got you here will not get you there.
Yeah.
What got you here won't get you there. What you've done to get you here right now, who you are right now as a person, will not get you to where you're going next. If you do the same things, you'll still be the same person you were. You'll still be doing it. It's like somebody that stays in the same job their whole life, and they don't adapt the job. They don't grow the job. They just stay where they are, and they make the same sales. And it's like the same thing every. It's
Unreal,
Groundhog
yeah.
Day.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
Groundhog Day.
without any progression and things. Do you think it's fair? I mean, I think it's important to think, like, if you are a person that has that resistance or that fear of change, to really ask yourself why. Why have you got that resistance or fear of changing? Because change is always something, like you say, it's a consistent thing, and it's all part of progression in any aspect of what you're doing, whether it's business or whether it's personal. So
Yeah,
I
I've
think you
got
need
this
to ask
statement on
yourself,
TikTok actually. This is a
yeah,
good one. It's actually said it on TikTok. Thanks very much for that. If a company or individual doesn't change with the times, then they will be left behind as others move on. I'm
mm-hmm,
going to pin that comment for a wee while,
yeah,
and that's the most important thing. If you don't change, then you will be left. Other people, there's no doubt about it. When we first jumped onto the scene, with our video walkthroughs and our drone footage and all the rest of it,
mm-hmm,
everybody was way behind what we were doing. But now they've kind of caught up. I mean, they'll never catch up because we're always still moving forward. So
yeah.
it's like, they're taking 2 steps forward, but we're taking 2 steps forward at the same time in terms of what we're doing. So it's just the same. There it says on YouTube. YouTube comment, just ask
Blockbuster.
Blockbuster Video.
I watched a video about how much Blockbuster took over the US, and then in a matter of years just completely disappeared. I think there was one left for a few years.
Blockbuster Video refused to realise that online streaming was the way
Yeah.
forward. And Netflix capitalised that market because Netflix was an early entry. And the thing that opened it up for Netflix was the ability for the broadband streaming. The bandwidth had actually increased, and that allowed them to do it. Before, Netflix was just a mail order. I used it. You got CDs sent to you, DVDs in the post, and then you got them, you watched them, then you sent them back. But as soon as it came online and you were able to view online, Netflix exploded. But
Am I right in saying that?
Netflix never started like that. Remember, you'll never be the same company as you wanted to start with. The vision you've got for your company when you start will not be the vision that you end up with.
Mm-hmm.
It will not be the reality you end up with, because it won't be like that. Because what you have in the start is what you think it's going to be like. But what happens is you adapt and change the environment over time of what it will be like, but based on external factors out of your control.
Yeah.
And that's why it's not the same as what you started out as. I'll give you a great example. Sony rice cookers. That's what they made. The Sony Corporation started out making rice cookers in Japan. Look at them now. Huge.
One of the biggest tech companies in the world.
Yeah. So it just shows you when they first started out, it's not the same. And that's a classic. That's a great example of
That's a
Blockbuster
good
Video.
example of Blockbuster, yeah.
They are no longer here.
I think I'm right in saying that Blockbuster did have the option to get involved in the progression and the change into like what Netflix and things is now, and they didn't want to. And then
No, Timex was the same. Timex watches. Nobody will want a digital. Nobody want an LCD watch. Nobody wants LCD watches. Timex is like, we're not going to change. Everybody wants analog. And it's like, no. Casio was like, no, this is the future. Timex is not. You just crack on. Kodak. Nobody will use digital cameras. Film is the way forward.
Yeah.
Only matter of time. Writing was on the wall. So it's just the way it is. It's the resistance to change from these people. And history is littered with people like that. And history is littered with other people. It came along and ate their lunch, and they became successful. Blockbuster, Netflix.
Yeah,
I'll have that. That's my market share, and that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Same with every industry. That's what happens every single time. But the key is, you've got it here. The key is understanding why, when change is introduced, seek to understand the reasons behind it. And then the communication is key. Address concerns openly. Discuss how the change will benefit everyone involved.
Yeah, if you've got a team,
when you've got people on that like that on you, not on your side. So when you're wanting to adapt and to change, then you've got to try and get people. my actual financial director, group financial director, said to me this years ago, Jim, it's not the fact what you're doing right now is we know it's the right answer. You have to win people over to your way of thinking. Whereas I'm like, it's my way or the highway.
you need to get people on board and make them understand why.
But he says, in order to build an effective team, you have to win people over to your way of thinking, or find the people that are the way you're thinking. Or it will still, I don't want yes people. I want people to question me. I want people to say that, maybe tell me why it won't work, and then I'll tell you why it will work. But somebody might come up with something like, this is why it won't work, and I'm like, oh, actually, I never thought of that. He's right. It might not work because of that. But if it was going to work, how would we overcome that? There's the classic. That's how who's the famous computer? Dell. That's how Michael Dell got to just in time, to just basically hold actually no stock at all and have none of his money tied up in capital, because he got everybody from a point of worked their way down about, instead of holding stock, why do we not just get our suppliers to hold the stock, so we're not paying for all the stock to hold up up front, so it can't go obsolete, it's not on our books, and we're saving our money and we'll be able to invest it somewhere else. That's how he did it. He got to just in time, and he was one of the early adopters of just in time stock control.
Yeah, rather than having big
I knew that
warehouses.
because I did stock control in my accountancy and manufacturing, and he was one of the test cases, Michael Dell, about how, if you were going to get it to, I know, but if we're going to get to 80% of what stock we've got now, how would we do that? Even though the resistance from his workforce, well, if we're going to do that, we'd do it like this and that. Okay, let's have a go and try. They were at 80%. I tell you what, how could we get to 60% of our stock? And then he kept going down and down, and eventually it was like, we don't need stock anymore.
Rather than having big warehouses full of stock and things. Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. So, and then celebrate these wins. Positive outcomes emerge. Celebrate the wins.
A team, if you're trying to get them to promote change to them, if you're celebrating these wins on the way, it kind of reinforces with them that change is a good thing.
For other people, it's important. For me, it's like, okay, I won. Right, what's the next goal? What's the next goal? What's the next goal? What's the next goal? The very fact that I won and I feel okay within myself is enough for me. I've got none of them, none of the awards we've got in here. They're all sitting in offices. I'm not a nominee thing. It's like, oh look, thank you so much for the award of the Wall Street Bull.
I was going to say, is that not the bull?
Yeah, I'm a bull, Wall Street Bull. I'm not a bear. I'm a let's go for it. So I'm not an award. Somebody says to me, I'm just an award hooer. That was I can't mind. I think it was Michelle that said that to me. So I says, "What's this thing about the awards? It doesn't really float my boat." And she went, "I'm just an award hooer. Give me them here. Give me all the awards." So she loves to celebrate wins, whereas I'm like, yeah, next one. But I realise I have to celebrate it for the team.
Kind of reinforce it, yeah.
And then that comes to your bit about leadership, support, and getting the wind beneath the wings. I play a mean second fiddle for other people.
Yeah, definitely.
Help them grow, help them get better at what they do, and put all the necessary things, not just necessarily for me. I can't be everywhere at once. So the most important thing is actually to make sure that you're putting stuff in place in order to train that person. Here's a classic example. A lot of people think about their employees. What if I spend so much money training these people up, they leave,
walk out the door,
yeah, and I'll lose all that training I've done with them. I'll put it this way with you. What happens if you do no training at all and they stay?
Yeah. And you've got somebody like that. Yeah.
It's a risk you take, isn't it? That's the most important thing.
Having that support from, the leadership thing, especially in business, if you've got a team and there's somebody at the head of that team, and you're part of the team, having that support and things to help, like you say, the wind beneath your wings type thing, to propel not just individuals but the entire team and everything forward to help you achieve your goals and things as well. And it's like
Let's listen to thank you for your weekly dose of sanity.
Funny. Thanks, listener.
There has been a book called The World According to Jim. I think there's a program, James Belushi. Actually, that's a comedy program. There's maybe do a comedy program. The World According to Jim, and that's it. So become collaborative and all the rest of it. You know why I'm trying to get this within an hour? Because I've got to book my holiday to Las Vegas, to Nashville, to Memphis, and then on to Necker Island at the back of this.
I knew you had
I will be
something
finished
to do
this
with
in the next 5 minutes for that reason.
Yeah, we're just about rounding up, but yeah, obviously having that support and things as well, and collaborative is like you say, Jim. It's good to be play a good second fiddle and also be a leader at the same time as well. You know, turn your hand depending on the situation, and it helps everybody within a team. But yeah, leadership and things. But we're going to round up talking about making the most of having, limited resources and things. And I put the example in here, like if you were a chef and you had, a limited pantry and ingredients and things to make something, you see people whip things up from almost nothing. And that's them really making use of limited resources. Peak performance is the same thing. If you could apply yourself and use the resources that you've got to achieve where you want to get, as something it's a skill in itself, and it can be taught obviously by people that are more successful than you.
My whole life has been limited resources, and I'm if anybody knows, linear programmer. So
Okay.
I program everything. So I know if I've got limited resources in one area, then I immediately identify it and think, okay, that's holding me back. I see it in my mind.
Yeah.
My whole mind works on the principle of a big massive spreadsheet that I know over here. It's like I need more labor in there because that's causing a blockage for the system to run properly or run smoothly throughout the process. That's maybe causing a problem, me getting there as quick as possible. So therefore I need to bring in resource of whatever it is, whether it's money, whether it's labor, whether it's a skill, whether it's whatever it is, I need to bring that in order to get there quicker. So when it came down to how do I get as quick as possible to my retirement from industry, it was how quick could I get there. It was not about I need to take it easy. I need to have a work-life balance. It's like, hey, listen, James, what is it? His name is James Watt. Is it? I'm not really sure if it's the boy Watt from Brewdog. He said he got stick at the weekend.
Oh, right, yeah. I think it is Watt.
There's no such thing as a work-life balance. He's absolutely right. There's absolutely no such thing as a work-life balance. Work-life balance is only if you want to have work-life balance. If you want to get your goals quick enough, then don't. Work-life balance is not going to be for you because you know you're going to get there as quick as possible. The more effort you put into it. But the one thing I would say to you is always take time out to sharpen your axe.
Yeah.
Make sure that you take that time out for yourself to make sure you're wired and fire and ready to go. Hence the reason why I monitor my sleep now. Because if you don't get the right sleep, you're not working at peak performance. Hence the word I monitor my heartbeat now. Hence the reason I monitor my stress level now. This thing does everything for you.
Yeah.
So I'm just completely clinical, and this is a tool when you think about it. Again, to help me to measure performance.
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah, definitely. And you talk about work-life balance, but I think if you enjoy what you do, you can incorporate what you do into your daily life and it not feel like you're working. It's just what you do, basically.
Yeah. The object of the exercise is you've got limited resources to work smart with these resources.
Yep.
Make the most of it. This is why, for example, Warren Buffett says, well, why would I need to invest in Meta? Why would I need to invest in, Netflix? Why would I need to invest in any of them if I'm making the full use of the limited money and resources I've got right now in Berkshire Hathaway? Why would I need to invest in them? Why would I need to invest in them if Coca-Cola is an industry that I know and I know will actually make more money for me? Why would I need to do that? This is the shiny penny running about trying to do everything at once. Try to do everything at once, you will never achieve anything.
No.
I always used to remember the phrase, and I used to wonder what was that all about when my dad used to say it, or my mum used to say it. A rolling stone gathers no moss. In other words, if you keep trying to pivot and pivot and pivot and pivot and pivot and pivot and not stick to what you know well and try to jump from industry to industry or job to job every single time, unless you're improving every single time, then you will never get any further forward in what you're doing. You're just doing it for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, you're just turning wheels.
Right.
Yeah.
Serial entrepreneur.
With limited resources, it's true what you say, Jim. Identifying where that's essential and projects and things that you need to apply yourself. Think about those creative solutions and collaborate and pull resources from your team members and other people, and that'll help you get a stronger solution to achieving your goals with limited resources.
Yeah, definitely. Peak performance. The one thing I can say to everybody is out of this is you need to, the most important thing you could ever do, and this is just the final thing I would say about this, in order to get peak performance and successful results, is to be a student of life, but be a student of other people who have either failed miserably in what they're doing or been extremely successful in what they're doing, and learning by these two things.
Yeah, for me, the two things I was going to say there is, like you say, Jim, continually learn and also embracing change. It has to
measure performance. Definitely measure it. Feedback, learning, growing,
all these things. Yeah,
overcoming resistance to change, gaining leadership support, going to the right people, understanding with the limited resources you've got, you will probably have to have really good mentors in what you're doing.
Yeah,
it's difficult for me to find a mentor because I have to find somebody that's more successful, and I don't mean that in a boasting way.
You have to cast a wider net.
I need to find somebody that's got a higher net worth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's difficult to find somebody that's got a higher net worth if you're in the top 0.1% of Britain.
Mm-hmm.
You then have to look way further afield for somebody like that.
Yeah.
That's the difficulty for me. There's no point in me to learn. What am I going to learn about creating wealth from somebody that's actually got a lesser net worth than me? Yeah. Okay, I could learn. And it's when people come on and say, wow, it'd be great to have that. And I was like, God almighty, I wouldn't be able to afford to go back to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
my mentors used to say it to me. My mentors used to say, oh, it would have been fantastic to make £100,000 a year. And my mentors used to say, oh my God, I wouldn't be able to go back to £100,000 a year. And I was like, what?
Because they're at such a different and excel stage.
Like, flipping heck. Totally different. Now I understand what they meant. Definitely. And on that note, that's us.
Yeah, we'll wrap up today. That was great, Jim. Thanks for that. Thanks for everybody that jumped in the comments and watching us on the live streams. And we will be back next week for the Wealth Creation Show at 12:30 as usual, and we will catch you then.
Thanks for the folk on TikTok. When's your next podcast, Jim? It's every Tuesday. Every Tuesday.
Every Monday.
Sorry, it's on TikTok. It's all right. You can